so on. So you need the price of the ride, you need to have it at 3-4 euro minimum, otherwise it's a bit complicated. And so I was doing my research in the French-speaking countries. So I take a look at all the big cities in Africa, and I was like, okay, Lagos, Cairo, Kinshasa, Johannesburg, Rwanda. Okay, Rwanda. Okay, what is Rwanda? I was not really good in geography when I was back to school. And so I checked and I was like, oh, Angola, okay, cool, 10 million people, that's quite interesting. And then I took a look at the GDP per capita and I was like, okay, actually it's one of the best countries in Africa. Why? No one is there. I mean, Uber was in South Africa in 2013, it's not so far away. And we were like in 2019 and no one, like Uber, Bolt, Didi, Karim, all the companies which are trying to go to Africa, none of them was in Angola. I was like, okay, so there is this big treasure. No one is seeing it. Why? So we decided to go there. I don't speak Portuguese. I had never been to Angola or something like that. So I hired someone who was speaking Portuguese. He went there. We tried to, we found a local partner and we decided to launch. So it has been 1.5 years now, and we are pretty happy. I mean, it's our probably, yeah, it's the fastest growing country, actually, because we're operating, so in France, in Belgium, in Europe, we're also operating in Africa, in Morocco, in Nigeria, in Senegal, and we're launching in Tunisia, Ivory Coast, Congo, Kinshasa, and Congo, Brazzaville. So see, really like French-speaking countries. But there is Angola, and actually we went there because we thought it's one of the biggest opportunities in Africa and people are missing it. And I think that people are missing it because usually when you think about Africa, you're like a European startup or an American startup and you want to go to Africa, you take a look at like the biggest economies. So it's going to be like South Africa, Egypt, or you have like a prism because of the language. So either French-speaking countries or English-speaking countries because you have more of them. You have like 3 countries Portuguese-speaking. And so people don't see it. And that's really a pity because like, I think that any startup, especially when you are doing like something like that, like B2C, so when you have something with consumer, you need like big cities, especially in the digitalization. For example, like Delivery, Glovo, or some companies like that, they went to Africa, they didn't go to Angola, and it doesn't make sense. To be honest, it doesn't make sense because you should target first South Africa, Egypt. Maybe if you want to target some English-speaking countries, you can take a look at Nigeria and in Eastern Africa, Kenya, and so on. If you are really brave, you can take a look at French-speaking countries, Maghreb and Ivory Coast, Senegal. But actually, Angola should be, I think, before that. It should be just behind South Africa and Egypt, because you have a city with 10 million people and with a middle class. And you don't have so many cities like that in Africa. So we are really happy about that, and we encourage really, really strongly any startup and any European startup. If you want to take a look at for Africa, it should be in your top 5 countries, and the first list, definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to pass now to the next speaker. João, audience from SAP, please tell us about your experience in Angola.
Good morning, João. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for inviting us. We believe in SAP that this is a really important event, not just for Angola, but also for the European Union's companies that want to invest there. So let me just give you a little bit of context, because I think it will bring some trust. We are working with Angolan companies for more than 20 years now, and I feel a little bit pressure because I have in front of me one of our best customers in Africa, which is going to be a use case in the near future, I believe. So we are operating there for more than 20 years now. We have an office in Luanda, so we opened our office 8 years ago. We stay there, despite of this crisis that arises with oil drop, with the pandemics, but being an European company, being a German company, we stay and we stick and we will grow. That's our main goal. So we have a wide range of partners that are working there, that are able to give support to our customers, that are able to the projects, that are able to maintain our customers happy, and of course, us as SAP happy. So when we are going to invest in Angola, and I'm going to talk to the investors now. So there are some questions that we all have. So how can I comply with tax authorities? Am I able to pay my salaries on time? And these small questions are quite important. And I can tell you that you can rely on SAP, and I'm not trying to sell, I'm just saying that you can rely on us because our solutions are already certified by the Angolan tax authorities. So this means what? And I think this is the trust that I want to bring to everyone outside Angola that is listening to us. We invested in a solution for the Angolan companies. But by the way, you have more than 100 customers working with SAP now. So and they are all compliant with the legal rules, which is quite important. You will avoid fines. You will avoid extra work. And salaries. So it's one of the most important things that we have in our own companies. So SAP has invested in a localized solution just for Angola. So this means what? That when you come to Angola, you can trust a big software house that has already invested in country, that has people in country. So this brings trust. So that I think that this is really important for you that are going to be in Angola. Of course, some of you that are listening to me online, you are already my customer in other parts of the world. So you can roll out your solution there and you are ready. And as Terry said, so it's an incredible country with a huge amount of opportunities in every sector. So that's how we see it, because we have customers from telcos, from the central bank, of course, in my heart, from oil and gas, utilities, agribusiness, you name it. So there are companies that are growing, investing, and using the new cloud solutions, the new solutions. So that's really important. One of the other questions that usual people ask me, so what about people? Do they have knowledge? Do they know SAP? Do they know technology? And we know that there's a gap. So, and how we are addressing that gap as SAP. So last year we started a program which we call the Young Professional Program, where we go and get the young kids or the young graduates that are leaving college, and we train them in a very intense training about SAP software. This year it's going to be the business process plus Ariba, which is our procurement solution, and I will explain why we choose this one, and also on soft skills, accountability, how to work with other people. And then we train these people at our own cost, and then we give them to the market. So here you have these kids that have already knowledge about SAP. And our goal is to have this at least starting next year, twice a year. So, of course, this program, the main objective is to tackle youth unemployment and to give good jobs to these young kids. But basically, we are helping them. We are helping our customers. We are helping our partners, of course, SAP, and most of all, the country, because they will be kind of evangelists that will push the other kids to want to know more and to learn more. And this is the way that SAP is contributing to the digitalization path that has already started in Angola, as you already mentioned, João, which is quite important. Because when we look, and I'm going around, so we see that countries need to grow. So when we count on whom? Technology, process, and people. So we are training people to have that knowledge. And we are using SAP technology to hope to work alongside with our customers, with our partners, with the government. So because we also believe that countries can grow either by innovation or by induction. So why should I go and build new software when I have someone that already has it and I can use it? I can be a second best. So that's the way we see it. That's the way that we are working with Angola for more than 20 years now, passionately, always, working in partnership with our customers, with our partners. So that's how we see it. Going back to the beginning, so to those that are listening to me, that want to invest in Angola, there's something that is really important. You can trust the country, You can trust the people that is working there, and you can also trust the state right now. So that's the message that I want to pass. We have trust, we have people, and we have already the technology which is growing in country. That's it, João.
Okay, thank you very much, João. Now I'm gonna give the floor to our next speaker, Luis Rodriguez Ovejedo, from Satec. Luis, please show us how your experience in Angola as a...
Can you hear me?
Can you?
Okay, right.
I think we can.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. We are very grateful to the European Union organization to invite us to this forum. I think that this is an initiative that has a very significant value. I mean, really, to do business, you have to build confidence. And we have learned through the pandemic that the best way to build confidence is by contact with people, by relationship, by moving and by meeting like we're doing today. And I think that this initiative is very, very important in the lines of building the confidence. We think that these forums will definitely bring together two interests of the common union and its citizens and its enterprises, and also the interest of Angola, that I think that there is so much that we can do together in this land. Briefly, I will tell you what... Okay.
Your mic is...
Well, no. Can you hear that?
I don't know. Is it okay, the sound? No. Otherwise, then I think you can take it.
Well, very briefly, I will brief you on what now it's working. Okay. So right now, okay. Our company, we are a system integrator. We are an engineering company that has been going on for 33 years. So I founded this company 33 years ago, and we've been moving around since that and lived all these times where so many changes occurred. 33 years ago, the world was different. There were not internet, there were not mobiles, there were not even PCs. So this is that we have the privilege of living those times very, very intensively. We are present in 13 countries in Africa and the Middle East, and we have now 300 people working in Africa. So we are a significant presence in the Africa, and this is our interest. At the end, we sell talent, and we need to build the talent in wherever we go. So that's the thing. So this over the years, we always working what is called today the digitalization. At the time, it was called a different manner, but this has happened since the computers exist and since the study of the processes and the improvement of the way how the organization works. But there is something now which I think that is quite different that is happening today. I will have an example here that you build businesses, digital businesses in areas which were never built before. So and this is really new. And I think that this comes to consider two different things. What is the role of digitalization and what is the goal of the digitalization? The role so far was to improve how organizations work. But now it's the essence of the business. And this is a big change. So I think that this is something that a country like Angola should consider very, very seriously, because these are the two lines that you have to follow. In the traditional areas, digital will be important because it should be new ways of doing the things. In the conventional areas, digital is as important as it's always been, probably even more because the competition in the world is much stronger. So I think that Angola has a long way already done, but has also a long way to go. And there are several things which are really critical. And basically, I think that there are two things where, in our opinion, Angola has to build capacity. One is infrastructure. So really, there is no digitalization without having infrastructure. Infrastructure means connectivity, means applications, means a number, not only the physical infrastructure. And there is plenty of room where Angola can come there. But also there is another thing which is very significant too, and is the data. So today, life is impossible to understand, at least impossible to understand without having the proper data. And the countries have to have the data to be able to take the right decision. So I think that in Angola, there are initiatives already, and we work in some of them, to build essentially spatial data that you can use for a number of different things, from urbanism, you can use it for agriculture, you can use it for deployment of networks for whatever. So I think that these are two areas where Angola really has a challenge to move forward. And another challenge that Angola has, in my opinion, is build the talent. And we know in Spain was suffered a civil war many years ago, and the country was poor, but we built the country because we use the projects to structure talent. So we learn as we did the things. And I think that in that regard, Angola has plenty of room to improve. So essentially, and I think that this is where the European Union can make the difference. If you compare with other alternatives like Chinese don't teach too much. Europe should come and teach how to do as we get the content. I think that this is really a significant move that we all together have to make. European Union and Angola, I think that there is still some barrier. So I think that we still don't know each other well. So really, the ones as me that have been traveling to Africa for 30 years, there is not that many people going to Angola. So you see that, so you have to visit the country, you have to be present in the country, you have to know the people, you have to have friends there, because otherwise you never build the confidence. And you don't build the confidence, you don't build the business. So and I think that in that regard, Angola needs essentially, in terms of developing it needs two things that we today have a presence. It needs the corporations to come and invest as SAP is doing it, and we need the entrepreneurs to go and bet for the country and develop new things and so forth. And I think that this value, together with the support of the European Union, can get into a precious cycle that could really change the center. Barriers also is, we need also to improve very significantly the financing of the project. So at the end of the day, the ones that are there that we have empathy with our local partners and our local customers, we see that there is a point where we come to the convergence of an interesting project and also possible, but then the financing sometimes constitutes the barrier. So there is plenty of room to build financing properly. And I think that matching the interest of the country with the will of the European Union as this type of investing, I think that is very critical, and this will drive us all together into this type of direction. And with that, basically, I would say that this is an opportunity to share the visions. Today, in this forum, we will have this chance of meeting companies, meeting European Union, meeting the people of Angola, entrepreneurs, and let's hope that we come out with some opportunities after this experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're just struggling currently to see if our next speaker, which is one of the directors from BNA, is able to join us. Pedro Castro Silva.
I am here, João.
Pedro, you're in?
Yes, I am here.
Okay. So Pedro, the floor is yours, please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Thank you very much for inviting me for this panel. My deep apologies for not being there in person. During my intervention, I would like to get across some talking points, both on the context and also potential for growth of digitalization in Angola. Well, as you know, we are part of the fastest growing region in terms of population, sub-Saharan Africa. In the specific case of Angola, we have about 32 million citizens. We add about 1 million citizens to our population every year. And one statistic that is also very important is that close to 60% of our population is between 0 to 24 years old. So this is a market that it's a market segment that is normally very prone to technology and are also early adopters. One of the instruments that has been used in Africa, for example, to promote financial inclusion is mobile money and the whole ecosystem that it brings with it. Just for you to have an idea, over 50% of active mobile money accounts in the world are in Africa. Over 66% of transaction volume is in Africa. And over 63% of transaction amount is also in Africa. There are some statistics specific to the Angolan market. João Traça has shared some. I would like to add that in terms of infrastructure, our telecom operators have invested about $31 to $36 per user, which is roughly twice of what you see in other African countries. So that means that you have a market where you have infrastructure ready to be used. You have a young population that is an early adopter of technology. But when you look at the statistics that João Traça shared, we are still half of what you see in the Sadec region, in the Southern Africa Development Community. So this means that there is a gap to be filled. And we are happy that companies such as Heetch has seen that and has come to Angola. And one thing that I can also share is that we have licensed a mobile money operator that is in Nigeria and is about to start operations in Angola. So there is the market, there is the infrastructure, we just now need to tap that potential and materialize that potential. You know, this process of digitalization is not exclusive of the private sector. I would also like to share what's happening with the authorities. You know, being at the central bank, we also pay very special attention at what the government is doing. And there is a white paper on digitalization by the government of Angola. You will find that in slide 15 of the presentation I shared. The government has heavily invested in e-government services in the last 5 years. Today, you can pay taxes through any internet channel. You can purchase government securities online, and you can set up your business also online. These are some of the things that did not happen 5 years ago, but you know, in order to improve our position in the doing business environment, we have implemented that. Now, when it comes to the financial sector, technology impacts directly the financial sector through the payment systems. And we had to react to what's happening in the world in terms of how technology is impacting the payment systems. So we did review our payment systems law. We have a new law that was approved in December 2020. And this law brings lots of news. For example, there are now new types of financial institutions. Before, it was basically exchange bureaus and money remittances companies. Today, there are all kinds of payment service providers companies including fintechs, for example. The new law already takes that into account. There is another provision in that law, and this one very much inspired on Payment Service Directive number 2 from the European Central Bank, which has to do with open banking. Open banking is now part of our market per law. We're about to start regulating that, and we already have a player that has applied for a license to be a payment systems provider as an open banking platform. One of the things that we also included in that law, learning from the experience of other countries, is interoperability. If you are a player in the market, you are obliged to be interoperable with other players. When you look at the likes of some countries in Western Africa and even in the Satec region, they started their mobile money movement without the need of interoperability. But it was when interoperability was applied that numbers started to pick up. So we made it as an obligation in our law. Now, talking about mobile money, about 3 years ago, the central bank launched an initiative together with local settlement company, telecom operators, and commercial banks. And we are happy to see today 3 banks with mobile money solutions, and also 1 telecom company, the largest one in the market. This can prove to be a critical success factor, not only in terms of financial inclusion, but also digitalization, because mobile money is much more than just payments. It brings a whole lot of services in terms of digitalization. In the first 6 months, just for you to have an idea of the operations of our largest telecom company, they were able to board in 1.2 million users. And the numbers continue to grow at the rate of 200,000, 300,000 new users per month, just by having P2P services. The next phase will be to bring in small and medium-sized companies and fintech into that platform. So we will have companies like fintechs like Heetch, for example, joining the telecom mobile money solution, so that payments can be done through that platform. Regarding other central bank initiatives, specifically, about 2 years ago, we launched an innovation lab, which is basically an incubator. And we also launched a regulatory sandbox, where companies can launch their solutions in the market, let's say under the supervision of the central bank. This is very good because the central bank does not know everything about new technologies and innovation, and we want to use this tool to learn from the market and regulate in a manner that can facilitate business, but also protect consumers. So in 2 years operating this innovation lab, we have graduated 30 fintechs from the market, and we have graduated 32 fintechs directly from universities in Angola. One other thing that we are doing with regards to digitalization is applying technology to our supervision role. The big name is Satec. We still spend most of our time receiving and treating information, and we want our professionals to spend more time analyzing information and not treating information. This will make us a much more effective and efficient supervisor. So we are about to launch in the next 30 to 45 days an RFP concerning Satec. Just quickly on 2 other areas, we think this process of virtual assets and the crypto world is irreversible. And that is the reason why the central bank, the capital markets regulator, and the insurance regulator have, since last week, launched a task force to propose new legislation and new regulation regarding the crypto world. So we expect to have that also throughout 2022, both for virtual assets and virtual assets service providers. And finally, we also finalized last year a study on central bank digital currency. Today, basically 86% of the world's central banks have finalized that study. We are now in a phase where we are getting more information from countries that have already implemented, such as China and Nigeria, so that we can then decide if we move forward with the implementation of central bank digital currency or not. So in a nutshell, those were my talking points. João, I give back the floor to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now we're going to open the floor for some questions from our audience. Feel free to use our chat on the platform so that you can put your questions. I'm going to try to bring some issues here on the table. And basically, I have a question here, which is pretty much, I don't know which one of our speakers would like to comment on. But I think there's an important question, which is, when you look at your teams in Angola, do you consider the Angolans to be fast learners? As capacity building and training, has it been a challenge or not? Because that's clearly where there's a gap that I believe it can improve. So I'd like to hear your views on this, your experience.
I can answer that question. Please turn my mic. Thank you. So, João, I think that's a very good question. What I can say from my experience last year, so it's really fresh. So as I was saying, we did the first young professional program where we took 25, 26 young graduates and we trained them. And it's a very hard training, and I'm going to be honest. So it was the first time that Angolans were going on that training, all in English, with the pandemics, all virtual. So it was not a classroom training. The number of factors which could make that go very wrong. So after the first week of the training, so I called to the trainers, how is it going? Are they all able to speak English? Is it okay? And they told they can all speak English, perfect English. And João, they are one of the top classes that we have ever trained. Of course, I was really happy, but it's my people, okay? And then when I was on the graduation day, so and I can say that, so they need to do 2 SAP certifications, and they're not easy. And they all did those 2, and some of them they did 3 and 4. So in the same time frame. And answering to your questions, yes, Angolan people can do it, and yes, sometimes they are better than the others, as everyone is. So that's not even a question. So yes, we are. Yes, we can do it. And I was really proud on that graduation day to look at those young women and young boys or young men saying, yes, we did it. And now they are all having nice jobs, good pays. So answering to your question, yes, fast learners as everyone else. Yeah.
I don't know if any of the other speakers would like to comment on this.
Number 2, thank you very much. So of course it's a challenge. You have some very talented people everywhere in the world, so that's for sure. And we have a great team. So I'm really happy about the team because when we started, at first we had like a couple of people. Now we are like 20, 30 people in Angola, and we are handling 1,000 of drivers. So of course you need some strong people. And so the team is great, probably where we can face some challenges that you don't have so many startups in Angola, and it's not exactly the same culture. So it takes some time, and some people are not used to it. And so we, as one of the first like big startups in Angola, probably we are building it for some new startups to come, but we lack some startup experience. So that's a challenge. It's not exactly the same way to work. Sometimes we are we don't have the same tools, we don't have the same culture. Probably we are giving a lot of freedom to some people, so sometimes they are not used to it, so it's a bit different. But then, of course, I mean, you have some great people. We don't have any troubles with the language. Most of the people speak a good English. You have many people who have studied abroad as well. So you have some talented people, but probably for us, when we compare to some other markets, we lack some startup experience. So that's something we have to build.
Okay. Pedro Castro Silva, eu não sei, I'm not sure if you want to say anything or not, but because I cannot see you here, so please feel free to jump in whenever you deem appropriate. Okay. So on another angle that I believe it's interesting, which is has it been easy to create formal or informal local partnerships? And when I say partnerships, I mean with suppliers or other type of partners. So not just your potential shareholder, but like being able to have an ecosystem of suppliers and clients that you can believe in and that you can establish long-term relationships that are essential for any business. Probably, Luis, you can start.
But I think that this is something very, very critical in our opinion. So really, the proper partner is key for the business, because you have to understand the country, and the country is not sometimes easy to understand. We have a long way until we build a network of local partners, and we are happy now that we find people that will cooperate with us very closely. And the important thing is that has to be a real partnership. A real partnership is the one that the contribution is somehow in equilibrium. So there is a certain knowledge that we, in the area that we are, there is treatment of data. We know about the data, we know how to handle the data, how to do the analytics, how to do the database and so forth, but we don't know about the actual interest of the data that much. Yeah. Okay, I do it way right. That's much easier. Yeah, and we have, for instance, we have partners in the oil industry that they know about the geophysics, they know about the information and so forth, and they complement us or work with their work, and this is a very successful. Yeah. The same thing we do now with agriculture. With agriculture, we're building a business in agriculture that is somehow sustained by the digital perspective. And we have the agricultural people helping us. So I think that the partnership is key, at least in the area where we are present. And in Angola, there is the potential of having partners like everywhere else, but you have to do the work to find them and to cultivate them and bring in the confidence.
I don't know if any of you would like to.
Am I on? No, I'm not. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So as I stated at the beginning, we are already for 20 years in Angola, and we have built partnerships. So now we have a network of partners that are able to deliver our software and bring value to our customers. That's what we really aim. So to bring them to the intelligent and sustainable enterprise. Of course, we are always looking for more partners, and there are some companies that are in the way of becoming SAP partners. So there's, of course, a path that they need to do with us. So in terms of compliance, in terms of knowledge, but we are, as always, building step by step a strong partnership ecosystem there for our customers to have the confidence to, and as you were saying, it's very important to have partners in town or in country. Why? Because that brings trust, that brings knowledge about the culture, and those little details sometimes are really important for those who are investing in Angola.
And a commentary.
No, it's okay.
Okay. So in that case, now I have another question, and this question is more for Pedro Castro Silva, which is basically related with the payments ecosystem. I think it's I think it's important if we, well, especially our audience could better understand how is the payment ecosystem in Angola, because it's important that companies can have financial relationship on a efficient and fast way. Pedro?
Yes, João, I saw a question on the Q&A chat regarding export of dividends. I think that's what you were mentioning. And this used to be an immediate concern when we were 5 or 6 years ago. Since 2017, we have implemented a range of reforms in the FX market that include having a market determined exchange rate and mostly eliminating the exchange controls on the inflow and outflow of capital. So we have come to a point in these reforms that we do not have any restrictions or exchange controls on the export of dividends, which is the question that was asked. Before, there was a need to come to the central bank to get a license to export dividends. Then we had a limit over which you had to get authorization by the central bank. Today, you need 0 authorization from the central bank to export dividends. So you can invest in your company, and once you get a profit and you deal with the tax authority, after that, you can freely and easily export your dividends. I believe that was the question that was asked.
Well, it was also that question. It was very broad so that you can, because I'm sure that there are a lot of things that BNA is doing, so there are a lot of room for you to comment. But thank you very much for commenting on that. It's definitely very important for for any entity considering investing in Angola. Definitely, that's a key point. Well, now a question more on terms of the market. How do you see the appetite of your clients? And when I say clients, if you're more on a B2B market or more on a B2C market, in terms of, are they eager for the brand new thing in the market, or they are more contentious and they like to think twice before taking certain steps? How would you comment on your customers from taking into account your specific industries? What's the appetite? How would you rank it?
Number 2. Okay, so in our case, we're a B2C service. And people are really eager to try the service. But the first time I went to Rwanda, it's not so easy to move around and to find a good taxi driver. So of course, when you have something new, and because of digitalization, but that's also why it's useful. I mean, you can bring a lot of safety because you can track the driver, the passenger. So you don't have to discuss the price, you can check your car when it's coming and so on. So of course you are bringing some value, and so people are really, really enthusiastic about the service. And that's the case for the passengers, but also the drivers. So we have a strong growth, and we can see that actually it could become a great and big market, which I think is quite important, because then you can turn some of the informal economy into something a bit more formal, because we know the drivers, we know how much they are making and so on. So that's something very useful. And of course, we are targeting Rwanda. So it's a big city, so maybe it's a bit easier because people are a bit more used to digitalization and apps. But in our case, we see a very, very strong enthusiasm and a strong growth.
Okay, number 3. Thank you. So what we see today in the market is that our customers are eager to go to the new cloud solutions. So, and there are some reasons why. So being the first one, it's cyber security. So as we know, so even in Portugal, your country, so there was a massive attack into Vodafone. So, and if you ask us, do you suffer attacks? Yes, but they don't even tickle us. So because we have a strong team there that protects our solution and our customer data. That's something that the Angola market knows, and so they are keen to go that route. Also, why? Because they know that with this new technology, we bring new processes, and they can do some cost savings in some of the existing processes, which is really important. And as my colleagues were saying, and we have here that is an example of that. New technology can bring new revenue streams. So that's why the companies in Angola are eager to go into this new cloud technology. So yes, the answer is yes. They are eager to adopt these new changes.
Okay, Luis?
Well, definitely, this is a question that has a lot to do with your value proposition and the customer response. So really, in Angola, there is so many needs, so many things. And normally, it's very common to make the mistake of bringing on top of the table what you have, not what your customer needs. And this is so I think that the issue is to listen to the demand. This is why it's so important, the presence, the knowledge of the customers, so the direct understanding. But once that you get to that point, I mean, I think that Angola has a tremendous drive for doing things, I mean, definitely. But you have to fit your value proposition with the customer needs, because we tend to think that what we need or what we have is what is going to be implemented, and it's not the case. So every country, every customer has its own peculiarities. This is particularly important in countries like Angola, that at the end, many investments get unproductive with the time, or get only partially productive. You go to hospitals that are not fully used, you go to infrastructure that are not working, and this is sometimes because it's driven more by what you like, but what you really need. So the question is to do whatever. But I think that if those things fit, definitely there is a very interesting market.
Thank you. So my next question, well, it could be for all of you, but I would like to start with Pedro, which is what can be done by the government of Angola and the European Union in terms of short, medium term, in terms of cooperation that would help you. So if you had like a wish list on things that EU and Angola could cooperate, what would be your first items on the list?
Yes, sure. I will speak mostly for the central bank. What we have now, we have a good cooperation already with authorities in Europe, and I'm mentioning specifically the central bank and the BIS, for example. Technical assistance has been fundamental for us to be completely in line with international best practices. Now, when you look at the market, and I will focus myself on the fintech market, we have come to a point where we already have startups with good ideas, that we already have startups with matured business models. There is now a gap that needs to be filled, which is financing of these businesses. And this is where investment funds, mostly oriented at private equity and capital risk, can come in. I think on the financing side is a gap that we need to fill in terms of making the potential of the fintech business. Now, there's also another movement going on. Companies here have learned a lot from the COVID. And lots of companies have operated during the harsher times with 25 to 30% of its personnel. And we learned from those periods that companies still work with less personnel. So one of the things that is happening in Angola from across the board, businesses, state institutions, central bank, commercial banks, is to increase the automation of business processes. The commercial banks and most of the other companies, as was said in the panel, they work mainly with data. In our specific case, we are basically an institution that every day treats information to make decisions. So what we are doing is we are automating most of our business processes. And what we see in the market is exactly the same thing. So the opportunities that I identify in the short term have to do with data science, artificial intelligence, robotization, and quantum computing in local enterprises.
Okay, Pedro. So these are areas where definitely you see some cooperation, data science, AI, quantum computing, and so on and so forth, which is clearly areas where Angola and EU can cooperate from projects in terms of capacity building, as well as in terms of developing technology together and implementing it in Angola. Anyone else would like to comment? And it's just that I've received instructions to end this in the next 6 minutes. So we have literally 6 minutes, 2 minutes each. Okay. Okay.
Hello? Yeah. Well, I think that an important, and this is for the European community, an important thing that European community should consider is giving more value to the contribution of the private sector to the work or to the ideas that they want to develop. So it is very hard to contract for companies with the European Union. And I think that there is still this mything that companies are some sort of the predators, and only the NGOs are the ones that could do it. So I think there is plenty of room, because companies have an advantage that we take the risk of going end to end. And we can be judged, we can be monitored, and we can be somehow measure the impact of what we do. And I think that there is, in my opinion, there is room for the contribution of the private sector to the work that the European community is doing in general North Angola, in the whole Africa.
Cool.
So let me just quote Roosevelt, who said that the best investment is in people, because that will really pay off. So having stated, using his words that are not mine, unfortunately, saying that one of the wish lists that I would like to see, that I would like to see, is the European Union and Angola having a broader cooperation in the education sector, of course, with focus on IT. So that's something, and as you were mentioning, so you can count on the private sector to be there also. So that's something that is very keen. One other thing, and before I say thank you very much, so it's the private companies, we already have the technology, so we can work together. So with the Angolan authorities, with the European Union, to achieve better solutions and to have better processes. So I think that's where we need to talk. So it's education and technology in order to improve the processes.
Eddie?
Yes. Okay. So yes. Well, so if we want to use Europe and Angolan cooperation, I think, well, in our case, but maybe because we're a startup, we could try to invite a bit more startups in Angola. We have some programs in Europe or in some countries in Europe, like in France, we are a member of a label for the like, let's say, most promising startups. And sometimes they're organizing some trips and stuff like that. And we probably, because as I said earlier, I think that people don't think about Angola, why it's a good opportunity. So you have to put it on the map. And many European startups could be interested in investing in Angola, but they just don't think of it. So we could change that. And then maybe cooperate a bit on the experience. When you start something new, usually the regulation is kind of gray. So you could learn from Europe, even if Europe is not doing everything right. So we can discuss that later. So, but it can be also useful to maybe speak about the experience, because most of the startups, they had some experience in Europe with regulation, and probably we can learn from that because we did some mistakes, and maybe we can try not to repeat them, even if of course the markets are different, so the needs are also different. But still, yeah. So I would say put Angola on the map and have some partnerships so the most promising startup can understand the potential there, and then maybe try to work together or to learn from the European experience in terms of regulation.
Well, yeah, thank you, Teddy. Well, for me, it has been literally a privilege and an honor to be in this panel because there are a significant number of takeaways, and I'm sure that events like this one help to build a stronger and better relationship between the EU and Angola, and that will basically mean, as long as the EU and Angola can cooperate, it will mean more opportunities for peoples on both sides of the table, and this is basically what we're here for. We're here for the people. So thank you very much, and I just want to say that we've made our part, which is we have ended when we're supposed to. Thank you very much.